Welcome back, everybody, to the Denver Dzogchen podcast. I'm here once again with Joseph Wagner, and today we're going to continue our series on the Eightfold Path. And the one we are going to focus on today is part of the meditation section of the Eightfold Path, and this is right mindfulness. This is a really important topic because that word has been thrown around just a little bit, and I think that people have very, very different understanding of what that word means. And so we could really use some clarification on what the Buddha actually meant when he said the word that we call mindfulness and how it relates to the path.
Hi, Damien. Hello, everyone. Happy to be back. It's been a little while, and these things are great. It causes me and Damien both to review our understanding of the path and make sure that we're more or less in alignment with what the Buddha taught. Since no matter whether you're following Vajrayana, Theravada, some Mahayana path, or you just consider yourself a general Buddhist, it's good to be in alignment with what the Enlightened One taught us, because otherwise we might stray into our own confusion, right, Damien?
That's right. It's so easy to kind of make it up, right? Dzogchen Rinpoche used to say, people always have these ideas. And so
Yeah.
it's quite right.
These ideas.
We rely on the teachings for a reason, and the path is laid out in a specific way for a reason. So having a good understanding of these terms and the path is so important. And it's so important for practitioners, no matter how long they've been practicing, to review and go back and make sure that they're really practicing the Buddha Dharma in the way it's intended.
Wow, I mean, I absolutely agree, and I think that the more I do that, I mean, I consider myself having been a Buddhist since 1988, which is a long time ago, and yet when I review things like the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, which is part of what we'll talk about today, I realize like, oh, I'm not doing that the way the Buddha encouraged us to do, and part of that is laziness, and part of that is busyness, but most of that is just forgetfulness and not reviewing the path. So I'm so grateful to you for bringing up this series and to our listeners for getting us to keep coming back every Guru Rinpoche Day and every Dakini Day.
Yeah, it was my good friend Ayrton, our Vajra brother, who recommended this series, and he also bought me this microphone because he said I was a little bit quiet. So thanks to Ayrton, and I also wanted to say while I was thinking of it, thanks to Ricky, our producer. Ricky does so much work on this podcast, and we're definitely going to have him on one of these days. But I wanted to make sure that we really acknowledge how much he puts into this too. So he's kind of the person you don't get to see or hear from, but he's helping prepare these episodes for YouTube and everything every time we release one. So
Every
thank
time he does this, he does all that, and he does a whole lot of other stuff. He works in environmental care for the state of Colorado. He has a family, has a daughter. He's constantly doing projects. He's one of those amazing people that I strive to be more like. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you.
so
Okay, well,
yeah,
let's
well,
talk.
maybe you can. What is mindfulness? What does that word really mean?
I mean, if we boil it down to its simplest form, it means to pay attention. It means to pay attention to what's going on with us right now. When the Buddha talked about mindfulness, he talked about the four foundations of mindfulness, which are mindfulness of the body, what's going on inside of us, what's our feelings, mindfulness of the mind, emotions, thoughts, and so forth, and mindfulness of the qualities, which are ayatanas and the other breakdowns, which we can talk about a little bit later. But these four foundations, if we only bring that our attention to what's going on in our body, what's going on in the environment around us, what's going on in our minds, what's going on in our different kinds of feelings, then that's a huge piece of the path because it's so much easier to uh, exhibit positive qualities if you're paying attention. If as soon as we stop paying attention, not to mention meditation and recognizing the view, all that stuff just to the side, just paying attention to how we're feeling, to what's going on in the circumstances, what other people are doing, just being in this moment as much as possible makes us almost automatically a better person. And I think that there's of course the trying to maintain this mindfulness of everything at all times, and turning every moment into a meditation opportunity, which is, of course, the best way. But even if we're just paying attention to what's going on, we're in way better shape for just bringing benefit to ourselves and others as we pass through our days.
It's so true. One of my, I would say almost my root guru is Eckhart Tolle, because his book, The Power of Now, was, it really shifted my consciousness into that you are not your thoughts, and living in the past and the future is a waste of your energy and time. And just the freedom from that and the ability, I can let that go. I don't have to sit there and think constantly about the past and think about the future, that I have no control over these things, and to really recognize we really only have the present moment. That's the only thing we really ever experience, is such a revelation. And he's helped so many people like my mom and other people who aren't really like into Buddhism or anything, but Eckhart Tolle makes sense to them. So it's just this like revelation, and then you can kind of go deeper and deeper, which he does. He talks about, the space behind the moment, or the stillness of the moment, or that which is beyond appearances. He's going, pretty deep into what this present experience is. But just as you had said, just by being present to the sensations, body, mind, and experience we're having, right there, so much suffering's removed, right? Because that's the Buddha's whole goal, right? Like, we're just going to get out of suffering. 90% of suffering is because we're in the future or the past.
Beautifully said. Yeah. I mean, if the only thing, I mean, I can also say that I think Eckhart Tolle might be enlightened. The guy has got something going on. And I'm not the only one. I've got other Buddhist friends who really feel he's got it going on. I myself have never met him, but he's very consistent in his teachings. And I do recommend that book and his other books also. They're very good. And even if the only thing that we get from it is that the only reality is now, that's a huge thing because it automatically lets us be, at least mostly present with this moment. If we're in the past, what are we really doing? We're thinking coulda, woulda, and shoulda. I could have done this. I would have done that had I known. I should have done this. All that kind of thinking, which is really almost entirely a bring down. It's either thinking that was so great, I wish I could have that again, or if I had done such and such, I could have continued it, or that was so terrible, and then you feel terrible now, even if that happened when you were a child. And I know so many, I mean, fewer and fewer as my circle of friends changes, but I know a lot of people who still say like, high school was the best time of my life. If today isn't, part of the best time of your life, you got to reorganize. You know what I mean? And that has a lot to do with thinking about coulda, woulda, shoulda in the past. When we think about the future, there's only two things which are really one thing: hope and fear, right? And the dominant one is, of course, fear. Hope is when you think, oh, things are going well, maybe they'll continue to go well, or maybe they'll change for the better. And fear is you're going to lose what you got right now if it's going well, or it's going to get, stay terrible. And they are very weakening to our sense of self. It's kind of like if you're going to push on something, if you use your whole hand or you use both hands, you can't push that much. If you put both your arms down, and you push with your whole thing, you can't push that much. But if you focus on right now, you let go of the past, you let go of thoughts about the future, it's like pushing with one finger, which is a lot more intense. We get a lot more out of this moment. Things become brighter, things become more focused. We have much more control of over ourselves. We can't do anything about even 5 minutes ago, nor can we ever reach the future. I was saying last Wednesday, I teach at a yoga studio on Wednesday nights, and I was just saying that I've been waking up for 56 years thinking tomorrow I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and I have yet to wake up and have it be tomorrow. It's always today. So, in the same way that Eckhart Tolle says, if we just remember that all we've got is now, that's half the battle. Half the battle. Tomorrow will come when it is destined to come, and whatever it'll be, it'll still be now. And the past, gone. I had a different past than you. Even if we spent all of yesterday together, unfortunately we didn't, then we still would have different memories, and the past is only memories, right?
Yeah, there's so much you can unlock out of this. Yeah, I've literally listened to hundreds of hours of Eckhart Tolle CDs. I used to have to drive for a living, and I would just listen to him. And he would even say, I have no idea how there's so many words to say about being present. But it's like there's so much magic in just this simple thing. And it's so funny what you were saying about living in the past. I had a boss when I was younger, and he would still talk about this shot he made in basketball in high school, and he would talk about it like once a week. And it was still the define. He was like 65, and I'm like, that was the define. It was so sad to me, and so don't be like that. That's super sad. Like live in your present, and it really brings to mind also a couple other things. One, like you were saying about the anxiety, like Shantideva says that if you can do something about it, why worry? And if you can't do something about it, why worry, right? So it connects to what the Buddha was saying about karma and your future experience. It's all just what you're doing now. That's what will determine your future. That's what will determine what will happen. So if you want to change the future and make it the best you can, then living in the present with your fullness is the way to do that. And then worrying doesn't add anything to it, right? So either you can do something right now or you can't, but worrying doesn't do anything except ruin this moment. So, really just being clear about how much time we waste thinking about these things that we have. They're just abstractions, right? We really just have the present moment, and we want to change. Well, of course we want to set ourselves up in the future to have positive experience, but the best way to do that is to take care of the present moment.
Totally true. I give two quotes. Neither of them are from Buddhists, so you like that. One is from Ramana Maharishi, who I think was an incredibly great master. He said, "Yesterday was the present to you when you experienced it, and tomorrow will also be the present to you when you experience it. Therefore, experience takes place only in the present, and beyond experience, nothing exists." This is incredibly simple, but absolutely wildly profound to me. Experience is only right now. When we keep that in mind, which is the first part of living a mindful life, just getting out of our own head, which is almost entirely past and future. That's all of our thoughts, just as you've been saying. Then we bring a kind of magnifying glass to this moment, and everything is more clear. There's more time to make decisions. There's more opportunity for happiness or appreciation or kindness. And it allows us to just be right now. And that is where, since that is our whole of our experience, it expands our life. It's incredible. And if you have even 10 times in a day when you think, I got right now, it makes the day seem so much more full and so much more bright. Excuse me. The other quote is from Kung Fu Panda. He said, "Yesterday is just a memory and tomorrow's only a dream, but today is a gift. That's why they call it the present." Which I like very much. I think that's a good one. So today is a gift, and this moment is the true gift. And the more attention we pay, the broader and deeper this moment gets, and that's the whole beginning, or it could be maybe the whole thing of the this part of the Eightfold Path. The more we can live in the present, the more opportunity we have. The less we don't have any opportunity, and then things like the final part of the path, concentration or meditation, doesn't even exist for us because we can't even live in the present. It's the first part.
And it's my understanding that part of this word mindfulness, in addition to attention, also has a little bit of a connotation of recalling, right? There's like a remembering, or because that's a problem, right? Like many of us know this, right? We want to be present, but we don't remember to be present because we're just habituated to thinking about the past and the future. So we have this practice of shamatha, which is really like, how do you do this, right? How do you become mindful? So maybe you can explain a little bit how this practice might be practiced on the cushion or off the cushion, and how can one become mindful, because
Mm.
it's not so easy.
There's many techniques that we can use. I think probably the most basic one and the foundation of this is your own breathing. If we can just remember that we are continuously breathing and we're only breathing now. We're not breathing then, we're not breathing sometime in the future, we're breathing now. If we can just notice, are we breathing in or breathing out or holding our breath right now? If you can just bring your awareness to that, everything else disappears for a moment and we get a new, fresh start. The main thing here, like you're saying, the remembering part, we have to train because right now, we are experts at forgetting. We've trained for millions of lifetimes, if you're thinking Buddhism, or at least this whole lifetime, about anticipating the future and trying to get ready for it and trying to, analyze the past so we don't make those mistakes again or whatever. But that becomes a habit, and then this moment, we're not even here for it. And the days go by, the hours go by. Think of how frequently, if you're driving long distances, you're listening to something, or just your mind is running, you don't even remember having made that drive. You might drive 20 minutes to work every day, absolutely no memory in there. Nothing going on unless someone pulls out in front of you or there's some crisis or whatever. You're kind of thinking about stuff or listening to something. You're not even there. And we have to retrain ourselves. Easiest way that I've found is the breathing. Just to notice, am I breathing in, out, or am I holding my breath? And then when I notice that, everything falls away. And from that moment, you can go forward. I remember in the same way, once we know, once we can come back to this moment using whatever technique it is that works for us, this attention returning to this moment, then we can do like what Garchen Rinpoche said he did a lot as a child. His father was a very strict yogic practitioner, and he said he tells often this story that when he was recognized, he was in his obviously in his home place, and then they had to take him to a monastery, which was like 2 days horse ride away. And his father continuously said, as you are riding, pick a place in the distance like that tree right there, and just think, can I remain mindful until I get to that tree? And then you use all of your power. And he said through that training, he became much more mindful of what was going on, and that's continued through his life. This is Garchen Rinpoche. He's now in his late 80s. And he, I think, is quite a bit in this very instant at all times. He seems like a true Buddha to me. So at first we have to remember, and then we have to try to extend that. So we can do that just in short moments, short periods. We think, okay, I need to get up and I need to go and turn on the right or whatever. Did you hear that? That's crazy. And just from, if we can just be like, okay, from this moment, I'm going to make it into the kitchen to turn on the rice cooker. If we can just do that, we've started. And the more often we can remember, then the more often we can extend it, even if it's just 2, 3 seconds at a time.
Yeah. When I first became Buddhist or interested in Buddhism, I cut my teeth on, Thich Nhat Hanh and the Vipassana insight people. And so all I had was sit there for 45 minutes a day on a cushion, which was painful for an ADHD person like me. Literally some of the most torturous experiences. I remember watching that clock and just, ugh. But I, to this day, know that established a foundation on the path that I still reap benefits from to today. So I had like 2, 3 years of just doing that every single day, just coming back to the breath, and just nothing else. I had no other prayers or anything, just doing that. And it was so crucial and so helpful. And I know some of our listeners, because of our name, are probably Dzogchen practitioners. And this still plays just as vital a role because many of you will notice what's the reason that most people can't really fully embody Dzogchen is because just the same reason we forget. Even if we've had our nature pointed out to us, well, how often do you think of it during the day and do it? Yeah, it's hard to remember. It's hard to hold on to. It's such a objectless thing that it's even harder than most things, right? To remember to do, to remember to look at our nature, and so this part of the Eightfold Path, you can see how it goes right up to the end of the path. And every, whether you're remembering your deity, or you're remembering bodhicitta, or you're remembering the visualization and prostrations, or whatever you're doing, this applies. So it's really worth spending time with this.
Absolutely. For our listeners right now, and for me, maybe you too, we can do it right now. All we have to do is take a breath, let that breath go, and that brings us right to this moment. And let's just see if for the next 20 seconds during our conversation, we can be as mindful as possible, just paying attention to this moment. And if you can just remember, like when you're practicing, trying to do lucid dreaming, you're supposed to check throughout the day, am I dreaming? Am I dreaming? In the same way, we need to have a trigger. That's easiest with the breath. So just again, that brings us to right now. And then we just try to continue that, allow that mindfulness. This is not really meditation, it's a kind of shamatha. And we can do that on the cushion, whether we're saying mantras or visualizing a deity or doing prostrations or just, doing zazen or whatever our practice happens to be. Just one breath, that's enough. And then here we are. It cuts off our chain of thoughts a little bit, and we're in this moment. And then, if you know, of course, how to recognize your nature, you have the opportunity to do that. It doesn't have much value to receive the famous pointing out instructions of your own nature if you never do it again. If it did, we'd all be Buddhas who got these teachings from so many great masters. So many people have recognized it's the training over and over and over. So first we have to have that drenpa in Tibetan, that mindfulness, that remembrance of when we're distracted. Because right now we're 100% distracted. So again, here we are again, right in this moment. We never left this moment. But we got distracted and we were just thinking, going, doing whatever. If we can just do that, even once a minute, I think that this is a good opportunity to use your phone. As you tell us about how you use your phone. You set up a timer, I think.
Yes, I got an app called Reminders, and so I have it go off, every hour or 2 hours and remind me to do a seven branch prayer, to say the seven line prayer. And I also remember to connect to my nature whenever I do this. So, we're already looking at these things always anyway. They're already in our pocket, so we might as well use it for Dharma. And there's like the insight timer, which will just ding every so often. You can set that to remind you to take a breath or recognize whatever practice you're doing. I think this is a really helpful because we all have to be busy, right? We all have to be doing things all the time, and there's a real risk. I know many people who are highly present on the cushion but don't have any presence off the cushion. This is a trap that can happen where you become skilled at being mindful and everything while sitting, but as soon as you walk around, you drop it and you don't. And so then you're like a Buddhist only like an hour a day, which isn't very useful. We need to really spread this through our lives. So we need to use these methods like our phone and just practicing mindfulness all the time. Really, we want our practice session to extend all day.
Absolutely. Yeah. The more we can just, it is a matter of remembering. I'll give you an instruction I received in Tibet from one of the Terton teachers that I study with there. He said, all you have to do is feel like you're balancing something on top of your head. If you just remember that, then just keep it balancing. Whatever you're doing, you're on your way to do something, it tends to slow you down a little bit, it tends to keep you more still in your body. That's a kind of mindfulness of body. You're paying attention as if you don't want to roll something off, so you're kind of paying attention to those feelings. You do not, if you're doing it, you do not have many thoughts because his thoughts are very distracting. So you can be, you're right in that moment. And and it helps you move through that next minute or two, whatever. We are super busy, and there's no way we're going to continuously be in a kind of retreat situation in our modern lives. Everybody is just crazy busy, but we have to bring this drenpa, this remembrance, this remembering quality to whatever we're doing. I just came back from the gym. I hate the gym, but in the gym, if you're going to do stuff, you are usually have to be very conscious of it, or you're going to get hurt, right? You're lifting weights, you got to pay attention. You got to pay attention to your form. You got to pay attention to what's around you. You got to pay attention to your grip. And it's actually could be easily a good door for mindfulness. If you're on the treadmill, you can't run completely mindlessly, or you're gonna make an example of yourself of what not to do, right? So if we do it where we automatically are in our lives, we have more chance to do it where we're not paying attention.
And this really holds a more profound or deeper benefit of, one of the main targets that we really have is to have this moment of recognition or remembrance after we die. And so we're also doing a death practice by doing this recalling. We're making it more likely that in our dreams or after death, we'll go, oh yeah, be present. Because just being caught up in the momentum of whatever's happening, the fear and all of this is what's going to sweep us forward karmically. But if we can have a moment of, oh yeah, be present, then we can distance ourselves from that karmic momentum and have some real profound presence possible. So this is really a crucial practice.
Well, it's the very foundation of practice. If we don't have any mindfulness, any drenpa, any remembrance, we can't meditate at all. We're just, it's torture chamber, like everyone experienced when they first started sitting, like you were talking about. You sit down and you're just like, okay, what now? There's nothing else in the beginning, right? It's whether you're concentrating on your breath or whatever it happens to be, you it's like terrible at first, but your mind settles down. Our minds are trainable. We just have to remember to do so. And we have to do that in all, the two factors, which we'll talk about in the final part of this series, right concentration, right meditation. We got to do it on the cushion, but we also need to carry it off the cushion. One way to do that is just what I said before, when you finish your session, you dedicate the merit, you're ready to finish, that's exactly the moment to apply the mindfulness. And you can just think, okay, can I get up from my seat and make it to the door before I get totally distracted? And then when you have that down, then can I make it from my cushion to my coffee station or whatever the next thing is, or to the shower or wherever you're going next. And in that way, we extend it. And then we make a habit out of it. Because just like, most long-term practitioners or even medium length practitioners, after you practice for a while, you can't start your day without doing your meditation practice. You just like could never do that. If there's an emergency, of course, it can happen that you don't sit right then or you're on the road or something. But almost always, that's why it's so important to sit at the same time, to sit every morning before you get the day going, and to sit in the same place because we want to build these habits. Right now, it's all about habits. Tulku Orjin always used to say it's about habits. Right now, you have the habit of distraction. If you want to have the habit of non-distraction, you got to practice. So first, little pieces, right? When we go through a door, we might be thinking, okay, I'm entering a new field. I'm going to bring awareness to that field. When we shut a door, we might be like, I'm shutting the door on the past now. These kind of triggers. And we have to come up with our own set and we got to stay focused and do it as much as we can. And after a while, it does take place that you're more mindful than you were, both on the cushion and off the cushion.
And I think it also clarifies like a lot of these things that seem kind of obscure in Zen and Vajrayana. It's like, why are they walking so slowly? Why do they dress in a certain way? We have to remember a lot of these are tricks and methods that different masters came up with for remembering to be mindful, right? Like if you have these complicated robes on that you have to like kind of hold properly, this reminds you to be present. The same reason that Trungpa Rinpoche always encourages students to wear suits because there's a certain kind of mindfulness when you're in an uncomfortable tight clothing, but
Mm.
when you're in like kind of loose clothing, you can kind of forget about it. And you look at like the Lojong teachings, the mind training, like you said, going through doors and saying, may all beings enter the Dharma and these sorts of things. They're really useful tools because we're compounding. You're getting the bodhicitta, or you might be getting the devotion, but you're also just having the general drenpa that you're talking about. We're just recalling and having an opportunity to recall by making our life more sacred. So maybe that can help our listeners and viewers understand why we have all these rituals. I mean, that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, you mentioned Trungpa Rinpoche, and it made me think that he forced his students to eat in the traditional Zen monastery style, which is where you eat one bowl at a time, the very complex and very focused way of doing it, just to bring mindfulness to that moment. I remember one of my favorite movies is My Dinner with Andre, and he's talking about being at a Zen center somewhere in New York and saying like, have you ever eaten at a Zen center like that? It's terrible. You have to taste every bite of your food. And I think about that and I think, wow, how many meals, even meals we really like, are we just shoveling it in? We're just like an animal, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
mindfulness is the difference between being an animal and being a human. I mean, animals have a sort of eternal present that they're in, but they can't get distracted from that. So there's no way to make progress. We get distracted from that in our minds, and we have to continuously bring ourselves back and be right here. And right in this moment, then we have a choice. Otherwise, there's no choice. Like you said, karma is a wheel and it's rolling downhill. Easy to roll downhill. Easy for that stone to keep going. If we want it to change direction, if we want to, get liberated in the bardo, whatever, we first have to know we're in the bardo. We have to pay attention. And the more you do it, the more, liberation there is. Because we realize, I'm mostly bound by my thoughts and my plans and my ideas and my memories and my nightmares. And when I'm right in this moment, where is that stuff? It becomes less, and your present awareness becomes more. And that's the door, whether it's to Dzogchen or Theravada or any other type of practice.
Yeah. Well, Joe, that was excellent. And thank you so much for going over this with us. We have one more left after this. So I hope you're enjoying this series. And if you are, then let us know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. And also let us know if there's something else you want us to talk about. So bring up different subjects. This was brought up to us by one of our friends and listeners of the show. So if you have a good idea, then we'd love to do that as well. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.